Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. And Marie's already in the chat there with question marks. I'm late getting on. Anyway, I greet you with love, honor, greetings, blessings to all of you. And I felt almost compelled to do this video because I've been watching some of the stuff going on here lately with Planet X and so forth, and all of the I have to say, it just seems like it's misinformation to me. Some of these folks, they're still using the same paradigm that they've been discussing for the last 8, 10 years. And I'm like, okay, number one, let me get this right off the bat. Let me say this. I do believe that there is a Planet X out there somewhere. I do. All right. Wade, hi, how are you? I don't know if I can include you with this because of this deadgum. I can't. This It won't let me bring anybody in with this live stream. Dang it. I'm sorry. But let me give you my 10 cents worth on this. It has something to do with some kind of upload to this Chrome machine, and YouTube does not like it. It doesn't want to show anything in the dashboard that I'm used to. It's weird. So, but anyway, I'm hi Wade, Marie. I did want to try to bring you in, Wade, but under the circumstances, let me have this discussion, and I'm going to try to work out the bugs. In watching some of the folks today, and over the last 8 or 9, 10 years with this stuff about Planet X, I continue to mention that there is more to the science than what people are giving acknowledgement to. And I think this should be a serious discussion. And I'm going to make a joke here or there, but I'm not going to pick on anybody. I'm not, because everybody is using the best knowledge that they have to discuss Planet X. Now, I said Planet X, gravity, asteroids, a serious discussion. That's in the title. Now, why would I bring asteroids into this? Well, tomorrow, tomorrow. It's still Eastern Daylight Time, the Standard Time. It's 12:31. I'm sorry, 11:31, and so it's not quite Saturday. But on Saturday, there's supposed to be three big rocks going by the planet. Well, now one's over 1 million miles away, and why are these people calling it a close call? The other one's going to on the other side of the moon, a good distance away, at least the same distance from the moon to the Earth away. But it's a close call. Just saying. Now they have another one that's like this one's kind of close. Well, it's about the distance of the moon. Now this rock, and they've got pictures of these things. At least they claim they do, and that it's about 13 meters. All right, a meter is about approximately 3 feet. So let's round it off to 10 meters. That'd be about 30 feet. Well, that's a pretty good sized rock. Okay, I mean my house is 20 something feet tall. So we're talking about a rock that's bigger than as high as my house is. Okay, I get it. Now let's discuss gravity. Now, if gravity is as true as all of these scientists and people try to tell us, then why, if a rock as big as my house is not going to be pulled into our atmosphere when it's as close as the moon? Now you say, well, Dave, what's that got to do with it? A lot, because it's proof that what they're trying to tell us about gravity, there's something they ain't telling us. Because if these rocks are so small and Earth's gravity is so great, then why aren't these rocks being pulled into the atmosphere? Now, I don't want to see a house-sized rock hit the atmosphere. Not where I'm going with this. My point to this is there's a rock the size of a house. Some houses even taller, because not all houses are 30 feet tall, but to the point, just, figure that 30 feet in diameter, roughly. Okay, big deal. Small mobile home even, But here's the deal. Why aren't these things being pulled closer to the Earth? Well, they swing by and they've got all these excuses, okay? But none of them are, oh, it's close. Yeah, it's 250,000 miles away. What? Excuse me. It's it's less than 1 LD. All right, that's between the Earth and the sun. I'm sorry, and the moon. Why aren't these rocks coming on in? I mean, when they swing back by, how come they're not getting closer? Well, some of them are. Well, oh, but it moved by a couple of thousand miles. Okay, fine. Keep that thought. All right. So now I'm going to reiterate again. I do believe there is a planet X out there. Okay. I believe there is something out there. But this is where I differ from everybody else. I do not believe Planet X is the sole cause for all of Earth's issues. Okay. Because if all this gravity mess were true, then why aren't these rocks coming closer to the Earth? If gravity is what they tell us, then why aren't these rocks getting yanked in? Well, we send satellites out, they're little old puny things, and they get slingshotted around planets and stuff. Well, okay, they're affected by gravity. How come these rocks aren't? Just a question. But the thing is, they can't answer it. Well, it was moving too fast. Well, it's something. They've always got an excuse. And so my thing about this is, you're trying to tell me that there's this dense object way out there that's causing all of our issues on Earth at the moment. I don't buy it. I simply don't buy it. Because of asteroids going around our planet. Why aren't they being sucked in? Why do they keep going around and they come back around a few years later? And some of these orbiting us, it takes more than, some of them are like 10 years. How come these things aren't getting closer? Don't you wonder why? I do. It's a rock. Okay, it's 30 feet or whatever. How come it's not getting yanked in? How come it's not getting yanked into the moon's orbit? Huh? So now I listened to all kinds of folks. And I've been listening, and I've been listening, and I've been listening, and I've been listening. And for the last 9 years, at least, Planet X is supposed to be getting closer. Where the farg is it? Well, it's out there in Ophiuchus, and it's moving into, okay, fine. You can't even determine how far away it is. But it must be further than the sun is. But this object that nobody's really seen, mind you, it has a gravitational pull that altered perturbed the orbit of Pluto. It perturbed it. Okay, fine. What does that mean? It wobbled in orbit. Okay. Pluto's about the size of our moon, give or take. Just go with me on this. So this thing, if it got close enough way out on the edge of our solar system, it would have less gravitational pull from the sun, if gravity is what they tell us. And that, okay, I could buy that. But we're the third rock from the sun. We're not Pluto sitting way out there. And so the sun, if you believe in the gravity thing completely, I mean, gravity exists, yes, but how they describe it, I'm not quite so certain. Okay. And that's where hear me out. The speed of which this thing is supposedly traveling, dragging all these planets behind it, mind you, it's like, Mary had a little lamb, no, I'm sorry. Where do sheep go? They'll follow behind her, okay, fine. How come more of us can't see it? How come more of us honestly can't see it? There's this little faint dot out there in the but it's moving. Okay, fine. I'm with you on that. But how can that same object, I don't give a god dog how dense you try to explain it to me. Oh, it's so dense it's stronger than 10 stars. How do you know? Well, we did calculations. Okay. And Pluto moved. Okay. And we think it perturbed Neptune or Uranus. We think. Okay. But you're sure it's Planet X? All right. Well, yeah, because the sun. All right. Now, here's where we're going to differ with this. People are trying to say that the sun has a solid core and it's doing not. The sun does not have a solid core. you can look at the different LASCO and other satellites. And when you look inside those big coronal holes that are getting larger, by the way, you can see the inside to the other side of the sphere of the sun. The sun has been mentioned many times by many folk that the sun is hollow, that the sun is actually a star portal. And a lot of us have seen objects coming right out of the sun and getting, you know, huge objects, bigger than the earth kind of deal, way bigger than the earth. And so, oh, well, that was a sun thingy or that was a blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry. Some of them are, but some of them we aren't. And those of us who wish to believe another story because the evidence doesn't match what they're trying to feed us. Now, well, the sun's got all these things. It does have a magnetic sense to it, but it's a sphere. It is hollow. And I've described this before in previous videos. If any of you out there have ever gone camping with an old style Coleman stove where you use white gas, you pump the thing up. Some of them have one mantle, some of them have two. And when you first put them on, it just looks like a piece of cloth. That's all it is. And you tie it on, right? So when you pump it up and you hear the gas coming out, you strike your match and you light it. And it looks real orange and yellow for a little bit. And then it goes, whoosh, and then it hits this certain thing, speed, temperature, whatever it does. And it starts glowing dead white. Now, when you turn off the lantern, those mantles are still there. But if you touch them, they'll just disintegrate. They're hollow. Okay. The sun is very similar to that. It's using the gases and the energy from the universe that we haven't quite discovered yet, or at least they haven't told you and me. But the galactics say it's out there, and I'm having a tendency to believe more in the galactics than I am in some of the science they're trying to continuously shove down my throat. And so it's like, okay, so now when I look at those satellites and I see the sun, myself, my observations, they're trying to tell me there's a solid core in there. I don't see anything. You can see right through, okay? It's like a hole in the mantle on one of those Coleman stoves. You can see the little hole there, but you can actually see the other side if it's really bright, but you put on sun. I used to do it as a kid when we went camping. Okay, so I'm makes sense to me. The sun is a mantle, all right? But basically it's hollow. There are chemical reactions within the sun, okay? But it's the gases and it's the things that it's collecting from the universe, and that's what's causing it to burn. Now, other people are not going to discuss this. Okay. That's where we differ in this, all right? I say, I do believe there is a planet X out there. I do believe it. But again, I will reiterate, I do not believe it's what's causing these issues with our planet. Please stop that fear-mongering, folks. You don't have enough information. You're not willing to look at the sun itself and go, oh my God, I think that some bitch is hollow. Because so much science has been embedded into our brains that folks are still trying to think out of the box. They still have a box to think with. And I have been continuously asking people, if you keep putting a box into the equation, you're not in the same level as I am. There is no box to think out of. And I'm not trying to put anybody down. It's this, that if you continue to think in this paradigm, then you cannot understand what I'm trying to explain. You must not even have a box to think out of. I know. So let's take this a step further. All right, Planet X. I'm agreeing. I do think it exists because there's something that is moving out there. But I don't give a... See, they're using the premise that our sun has a dense core. What if it's hollow, like the galactics say? What if it is a portal? I don't believe that it has any kind of solid core. Again, like I don't believe that the Earth has a core of molten gob, okay? Now, I'm moving from a hollow sun to the hollow Earth for a particular reason. It's because everything that everybody's trying to discuss with this, They are considering that there is this iron molten core. Well, it wouldn't have a specific polarity to it. It would just be a ball of stuff. Now, I will bring this up again. Admiral Byrd flew into the hollow earth, and no one from the government or any other kind of agency has tried to say otherwise. From the time he took it to all the old records and everything you see, they have never once said Admiral Byrd was a dummy. Not one time has anybody come out and said, well, Admiral Byrd was off his tree. You can still find the old black and white videos of him and him talking about it. Now, why is that? If the hollow earth theory were that crazy, wouldn't they have scrubbed it? Wouldn't they have wiped out Admiral Byrd and his flight to the inside of the planet? Wouldn't they have tried to poo-poo his ideas? Oh, well, there's nothing out there. They come up with another conjecture. Well, there's a solid core, and so everybody's like, what? Solid core? Oh, well, then maybe Admiral Byrd was wrong. Maybe there's something else. So they discount him, not by saying that he was a damn fool, but by saying, oh, there's a solid core. They don't say, if there's a solid core, therefore Admiral Byrd must be wrong. They don't use it in the same category. Think about it. I've searched around, and that's just one of them damn puzzling things. Like, what? So if they're not trying to discount him, and if Admiral Byrd actually did fly into the center of the earth, as he said, that changes everything. Guess what? All these theories about the molten, the core and all this stuff, and that it's the core of this blah, blah, blah. What? Now, what's been going on for the last several years? Cosmic energies. Pastor Paul Begley did one a couple of days ago. I watched it today, the first hour of it. I put it up on my Facebook page. I, forwarded, asked, you should go watch it. Mike from Around the World, I think is his name, was the person. And he has information, quote, about Planet X, but he also has a lot of information about the cosmic energies, the cosmic waves, and that information is more important to me than anything that Planet X is. Because these cosmic waves are coming in regardless of any other planet out there. And there is too much proof to prove that these energies coming from from the center of the galaxy or whatever, it's not from the sun itself, although the sun is helping. It's heating up the earth, like I've said before. The mantle, the entire thing is expanding. It's a baked potato in the microwave. Now, I watch different shows. I've made no comment. I've made no whatever to anybody in the chat rooms because I think they simply are using an old scientific method that they're trying to make fit what's going on. And I continue to say, I'm sorry, folks, but your information, you don't have enough information to make the correct assessment. Are they wrong? With the science that they're using, yes, because the gravity models aren't fitting what these folks are trying to tell us. Now, they claim, well, this satellite went around Jupiter a couple of times, and then we sent it off into deep space. How do we actually know them SOBs? Oh, we saw the rocket go up. How do we know it really went around Jupiter? How do we know it went around Mars? How do we know it went to the moon? We take their word for it. Whoa. Okay. We're taking their word for it on all of these things. Well, it's got a solid core and it's molten and all this, and that doesn't account for what's going on. If it were a solid core, it would be absorbing these energies from the cosmos, and they're not. It's not. If anything, it's agitating the inside of the earth and it's heating up from the inside out. Now, I've had this discussion before, but I didn't throw Planet X into here. And I wish to tell people, I do believe that Planet X is out there, but it's not responsible for what's going on the earth, period. Could it have an effect as far away as it is? Number one, if you take the premise that the sun is hollow, then your theory that there is a burnt out star out there with such a gravitational pull that it's yanking all these other planets out of their orbits. What if there was a different explanation, one that they don't want us to know about? What about these energy waves that have been coming into our solar system? What if one of those energy waves was so great that it literally moved a planet? Could that happen? Well, they're trying to make me swallow the idea that some gravitational pull of a star that can't be seen, and we think it's that, but we're not. They're trying to make us believe that. Well, it's a stellar core. How do you know? It's all hypothetical. None of you have ever seen one. And I don't mean to be disrespectful to anyone, but you're using science based on hypothetical hypotheses. You're not basing it on facts. Who's went to a sun? Nobody. They take pictures of it and watch the colors, run it through a spectrograph. Okay, fine. Oh, that's a dead star. It's got a hard. Okay, show me the science where you reach that equation. Well, the hypothesis. Show me proof. Don't give me a hypothesis, because my hypothesis has as much, if not more, sense than yours does, because I'm using natural science and I'm using observation. And these people are trying to say, well, if you observe this, Hawkeye, this should happen. Well, then how come these asteroids keep whizzing by the planet? How come they're not getting sucked in closer? How come they don't start an orbit like the moon around us? I mean, like close in. If our gravity of this planet is such that that's what's supposed to happen, then why isn't it happening? Why aren't more of these rocks taking up a closer position and orbiting around our planet? So I have issues with the gravity thing, period. Because it's like, well, what about this other stuff? Well, okay, now one of the latest things about the asteroids, and I did this in my last video, but I got to say it again. The comment and everything about this, it had to do with Mau that went through and it's an alien probe and all this other. Okay, fine. But with that, they tack in this thing. Well, it's sort of like a comet, but it's not. Comets made up of ice and dust. They've landed on two separate comets. Neither one of them had dust and neither one of them were made of ice. And I still contend, tie an ice cube onto a string if you can, and twirl it around your head a couple of times. It's going to melt, it's going to disappear, and there ain't going to be no comet left. So as many times as these things have been around the sun, why haven't they like melted? Why all these things, all these particles coming off? Why hasn't that comet literally just disappeared? Because there's nothing left of it. It's traveled hundreds and thousands and trillions of miles, but it still looks like the same rock. How is that possible? Well, I got an answer for that, but it doesn't match theirs. Well, the tail, it's all these dust particles. No, it ain't. Because if it were, there wouldn't be a comet left. Follow me? Okay. Serious discussion. The asteroids, they're claiming, these same scientists are saying that asteroids are made out in the Kuiper Belt, where ice and dirt and, rocks just floating around out there get jammed together. By what? They don't say that. Oh, they come to the ice and the dirt and it makes these comets. And then something comes along and it throws them out and they turn into a comet. Oh, wait, I thought you said there's nothing in space. You said, well, there's dust and ice. Well, how come? I've used a telescope and other people. Have any of you seen ice out there? Not particularly. What about, okay, there's rocks out there. All right, there's dust. I go with that. But if there's ice out there, that means there must be water in the universe. Out in space, floating around by itself, there must be water for it to turn into ice. Where'd the ice come from? Is it raining in space? And then it gets, space is cold. Well, we all kind of know that. But how do these little water crystals and ice crystals, they just come together magically? And they bond with the rock, and it turns these things into a comet, and then some magical thing throws them towards the sun. I got a bridge I want to sell you, if you believe that story. And that's the current. It just came out yesterday. This is like the current stuff. Now, I'm sorry. I'm not that frickin' stupid. And neither should you. They're trying to shell game us with a lot of BS some more. Okay. So let's go back to the Planet X thing. Now, it's obvious because of the Schumann resonance that energy is coming from somewhere. It is coming from the sun, but there's even more coming from the galaxy. So many people now are going, scientist wise, are going, wow, we're in our third wave of energy. Oh my God, Mike from around the world and Pastor Paul Begley, they've had these discussions before. And I agree, because we were told back in the late 80s and early 90s, our entire solar system, sun, moons, all the planets, were going to pass through a dense area of the galaxy. That was in the late 80s and early 90s. We're here. Something else they're not explaining. I was looking at an article about they found a new moon around Jupiter. Whoa. And then I went to Wikipedia. Wait, is that right? Yeah, Wikipedia. And looked up Jupiter's moons. Oh my God, there's 100 of them or more. What? Now, when I went to school, there was like 10 moons, 8 moons, Ganymede, the 4 major ones, Io. And okay. How did we all of a sudden get all these hundreds of rocks, moons, flying around Jupiter? Now, if you listen to the galactic messages, it's spaceships that were promised 10 years ago. And when they got here, they were going to dock around Jupiter and Saturn. That's what they claimed. All right. Okay. Now people say, that's bullshit. Well, then where'd all these new moons come from? They didn't used to be there. Now, if it was Planet X, why haven't some of these rocks been pulled away from Jupiter? Okay. If this gravity thing is so great, then how come if it's greater than Jupiter, this is the excuse, this is what they're telling us, that this failed star celestial core thingy is stronger than Jupiter, then how come Jupiter's picking up extra moons? You follow me? Now, I will go back to the galactics. We were told 10 years ago, we're going to use Saturn and Jupiter as a base. We're going to come in. We're going to set up spaceships around. And guess what? In reading the article yesterday about the Jupiter moons, there's 6 of them missing. Wait, what? Let's go back. 6 of the new moons are missing. They can't account for them. Now, so here's my point. How can a moon go missing? If Jupiter's gravity is so great, which I would agree that it has a gravitational pull, then how can it lose 6 moons? I can see where it gained one. But now let's be serious about this. Where would those 6 moons have gone? Now, what if this cranky conspiracy stuff is true, that the galactics brought in these spaceships and those moons are actually large ships, and that, okay, they've been coming in, and that's why Jupiter has more moons. Some of them are going one way, some of them are going, there are 3 different belts of moons now. I didn't know that. I was just going on the presumption that the science that I knew 20 years ago was good. Not anymore. So everybody else needs to upgrade this as well, because guess what? 6 moons just don't leave the gravitational pull of Jupiter, unless you're lying to me about your hypothesis. You follow where we're going with this? They're telling us one thing, but at the same bit of science, it don't make a lick of sense. Now, if 6 of those moons were actually some kind of starcraft or spaceship or something, then that would make perfect sense. They left orbit on their own. Now, what did this Mao thing? What did this Harvard scientist say? Oh my God, it came in, it picked up speed and changed directions. And then a year later, they're calling it an alien probe. Now, why would they call that an alien probe and then in the next article discuss that Jupiter lost 6 moons, or maybe it was 8, it was quite a few, wasn't just 1 or 2, but to the point, but it picked up another one in a really odd elliptical kind of orbit. So I ask you, with the information that they're trying to shove down our collective throats, does that really make sense? Well, we hypothesize and the stellar cores but where's your proof? Well, we've been looking through this telescope and again, where is your proof, please? I'm sorry, everything you've done is a hypothesis. It's a thought. It's conjecture. It's not truth. It's hypothetical. I made up a story and let's see if I can make the math work. That's exactly it. Now, I'm not a mathematician. It's not my job, but I am an observer and I have observed these things. I've been watching their science since I was a kid. And again, I bring up old sci-fi movies because some of these old sci-fi movies had doctors, PhDs, science foundations behind them to make sure that the science in those old 50s science fiction stories were correct scientifically. And the one I just watched was 2 moons collide or something, and it showed an arc between the two. Oh my God, electric universe. The scientists knew about it in the 50s. Walt Thornhill and some of these folks are still trying to get everybody to like jump on the bandwagon with this, but they already had the science in the 50s. Otherwise, why did they have 2 moons that all of a sudden there's an electrical spark between them? That's how the Grand Canyon was made, not by a river. There are so many things that aren't being discussed. Now, the asteroid belt. Now, I grew up, they said, well, there used to be a planet between Mars and Jupiter. Something happened a long time ago and it blew up. Now they're trying to say that some of these asteroids were made out of dust, ice, and turned into rock out in the Kuiper Belt, and they come into the, I believe, the blowed up planet or a moon or something. I believe that. But you're trying to tell me that ice and dust got together to make a rock? And this is your current science? Conjecture. I mean, my story's better than that, but I'm trying to use thought about this and a little bit of common sense, and I've looked at their science and it doesn't make sense to me. Oh, the stellar core has got all this, but where's your proof? Well, way out there in this other galaxy, and well, we've observed these things. How many light years away? Oh, about 22 light years away. Yeah, well, that's like 2,200 million miles kind of thing. And you're trying to tell me that you're looking through the telescope and you're going to make the hypothesis that these dead stars have this gravitational mass. You haven't seen one. You've observed behavior in another freaking galaxy with a telescope, and you're trying to tell me that that's accurate. No, you're telling me that that's what you think is happening. Let's be bright about this. Let's be the grown-up in the room, okay? Again, I say, I do believe there is a planet X, but I don't believe the hogwash surrounding it. Because if so, then Jupiter wouldn't have lost 6 moons, and okay, it would have gained one, but to the same point, then why? I mean, in a couple of hours, there's going to be 3 different rocks fly by the Earth. Why aren't these things getting pulled in? Why aren't their trajectories being altered? They're not. We send satellites out to Jupiter to go around it a few times and take pictures. Or did it actually go? I'm serious. I mean, I'm starting to question the data they claim is coming back. Did they actually send a freaking satellite out there? Ooh, look at the pictures here. Or did they actually take that with a good telescope? I got to question it. I do. Because they've lied to us about so many other things. How can you actually believe them with this stuff when they have no physical proof? It's a stellar core, and I don't want you to think I'm picking on anybody. I'm not. Because there are a lot of people using this excuse, stellar core. And my point is, if the suns are hollow, how can you have a stellar core? Well, they collapsed into what? If it collapsed, I could believe that they would blow up and become a neutron star. That makes sense to me. But that it collapses and it becomes so dense that the gravity disappears around it, then how come other things aren't happening? How come Jupiter's losing moons? If that were true. Now I bring up this woo-woo side of it with the UFOs. Many of us have seen a lot of different videos about a lot of things. Now, one of the recent videos I saw, I tried to hang out in the chats, and it was just, I'm sorry, they were like talking about stuff that just really didn't make any sense to me. It still doesn't. It's like, but you guys aren't studying the science. You're not looking at what's going on. Look at the evidence. And the evidence is not that this thing is a stellar core, because then our whole solar system would be whacked out. Now, there is huge amounts of proof that we are getting bombarded by cosmic and solar rays. We already know that solar rays can affect the Earth, Carrington events, earthquakes and stuff. That's believable. That's science. You can go out and watch the rays come in and how it's affecting the Earth from space. I get that. And that's my point. Because if you will look at the data, it's obviously that what's going on with the Earth are cosmic rays, blah, 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 not Planet X. Now, I have been reporting for over 2 years. I'll have to go back in and look. I can't get into my dashboard right. This little Chrome box has been okay, but you don't like to do stuff. But anyway, so I know for at least the last 2 years, probably 3 at least, that I've been doing videos and stuff about the Earth wobble and my observations from my house. Now, my observations prove to me we're in a big time wobble. Now, folks are taught, well, we're wobbling over the course of a year. We're wobbling over the course of hours. They don't want to admit that I watched the moon come up correctly and get to almost overhead, and then it sets in the southwest. Wrong. We're wobbling big time, and it's just go outside and watch. And some of you folks in the earlier video I did, you agreed, like, yeah, I took a picture of it, and it's set damn near in the south, and I cried. I've done the same thing several years ago. I watched the moon overhead, and next thing I know, it's sitting over there towards Tallahassee, which is like southwest of me. And I'm like, what the hell? That's an impossibility. So what would explain that behavior? A wobbling Earth. Now, that was 2 years ago. So if Planet X is moving in so quickly, this is my other fault about this. It's still way out there. Well, it's coming in from under us. Okay. Well, it's going to come around the top and it's going to do the. Okay, I got you. I'm listening. But it's still way too far away for this stuff to be happening. In my humble opinion, if this were some kind of stellar core or something, it's too far away. It's further than Jupiter is. Jupiter has an effect on us. But if Jupiter can lose 6 moons, then how are you going to tell me this stellar core is stronger than you follow me? They're trying to explain how this is supposed to work because it's a hypothetical. Again, I say I do believe the Planet X is out there, but not causing the Earth to do this. This is separate. Okay, that's my point. So people, Planet X is coming in some more. 3 years ago, it was supposed to have been here. It ain't here yet. Now, if this celestial object is traveling through space as fast as it's supposed to be traveling and dragging all the stuff behind it, yada, 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 okay, fine. Stick with me. 10 years ago, when they said it was coming, it ain't got here yet. Well, but it's still coming. It's out there. Okay. But 10 years ago, you were saying the Earth was being affected by this. We were getting cosmic rays 10 years ago. What most people don't understand, when was the last time you ever heard of people talking about the ozone layer? That's because at about 2007, 2008, we got hit by a cosmic blast that literally ripped the top of our atmosphere off, and with it, most of the that zone I just talked about. Yep. Go back through the science. Yep. They'll barely will admit it. But here's the thing. They've got some scientific proof on that. Anybody who's looked at the outside, all the clouds are closer to the ground now. I mean, even the big clouds are closer to the ground. I went into town yesterday with a friend of mine to get my driver's license. And I'm looking out the window and I'm riding along and I'm going, don't those clouds look really close to the earth to you? She goes, yeah, they really do look low. They were perfect little white, puffy little, clouds from the old days that I remember, but they were really close to the planet. I mean, and I told my friend Marcia, I said, I think I could shoot that thing with my bow and arrow, and I just got a longbow. It's, nothing fancy. And I'm like, it's so low. I mean, I've flown in small aircraft and stuff, used to build them at Mall Aircraft. And, I've been up in the planes and flown through them, around them. Okay. And anytime I ever saw them before, they were always a couple 100 feet higher. The clouds now are really hanging low to the surface. Now, if the top of our atmosphere was blown off, and if other science is true, our atmosphere has been compressed. Higher density, other things, just saying. And there is science to back that up because of all the instrumentation and all the things and all the proof of all of the cosmic rays we've been getting. Now, they may have washed it off of the net, but there's still evidence out there. Now, do we have the same kind of evidence for a gravitational burnt out star that's traveling around and wreaking havoc on across the universe? No, that's still hypothetical. You follow where I'm going with this? I know you do. And if you don't, well, keep up. I'm not going to look in the chat. You know my rule. If I look in the chat now, I'll get all confused and I'll lose my track. But here's part of this other thing, though. The folks are trying to grasp what's going on, but they're looking at old science. They're still looking that, there are only 6 or 8 moons around Jupiter. Okay, explain what's been happening then in the last 5 years. Well, I don't know. Well, if we went through a denser section of the universe, which we've been told for a long time, to those of us who've been watching the science, then we could have picked up some rather huge rocks that are now orbiting Jupiter. But why haven't we picked up any? Why isn't these 3 rocks that are coming by in a few hours not going to become a sure enough orbit around the Earth? Well, it's not dense and it's too. But then how come our spaceships, they slingshot them around planets and stuff? You can't have one without the other. I'm sorry, but a 30-foot rock has more mass than a satellite, at least the ones I've seen. So you want to make the argument that, wait a minute, the satellite's got what? The satellite's got what? What does it have that a 30-foot rock don't have? Just asking, okay? I mean, there should be some kind of gravitational something with a 30-foot rock, if this hypothesis is correct. Nothing's orbiting. The 2 of them are going to go on the outside of the moon, and one is going to almost scrape the moon. I mean, I would be more worried that the moon would get hit with this rock than the Earth. But oh, beware! 3 asteroids coming in. They're farther. They're 2 of them are past the moon, and one is about the same. Well, but if the gravity of the Earth was such that, why aren't these being pulled in? Why aren't their gravities being changed? Why aren't they being slingshotted around our planet like we claim we do with all these satellites? Now, they claim they have done this. But do any of us have proof of it? Well, they take pictures of the planet. No, they don't. They get data back. And the data is transferred. I found out this about a couple of months ago, and I was like, what? And then it goes to an artist rendition of what those signals should look like. So we're not seeing a picture of the planet. We're seeing a rendering that a human being and a computer does to take those ones and zeros and turn it into a picture. Oh, crap. They have to render it. Well, okay, I've done video editing and stuff. And when you do all your this and you splice that, you hit the render button and it ties everything together. But I didn't know that they had to make these drawings and then and so they're not really pictures. They're, there's not necessarily a snapshot per se. It has to go through a person who renders it and puts whatever they want into it. So again, how do we know that the information that they're telling us? Did we make it to the moon? Frick, I don't know. There's a lot of evidence that says we didn't, and there's a lot of evidence that said we did. Okay, but to the point though, they could have sent on unmanned. I believe that they've had anti-grav for a long time because of the science that I just watched earlier an old black and white sci-fi film, and it was campy. Yes, but the science was amazing. And okay, I got to watch an hour and 20 minutes to listen to 5 minutes worth of science. In my opinion, it's worth it. Anyway, and I like old campy stuff better than current television, in my opinion. But anyway, so let's take this, the gravity thing. There's too many weird things going on with this gravity model. Now, gravity works on Earth, but does it necessarily mean that it works in the rest of the universe? Well, no. I've not been to another planet to be able to tell you. If I throw a ball up on the moon, blah, blah, blah. Listen, you weigh a tenth of your weight on the moon. Well, now, when you watch all those old moon shots of them doing this shuffle and jive across the planet, if you were 1/10, if I was 100 pounds, that means I weighed 10 pounds. If I weighed 200 pounds, that means I weighed 20 pounds, right? 10 to 1, right? At a zero. So if I was 20 pounds, I could jump like a mother. Okay, well, you got all this heavy equipment on and stuff. None of this shuffle and jive across the planet. The flag, the flag was waving. Oh, somebody, wait a minute. If there's not an atmosphere on the moon, how can a flag wave? Now, I watched it live and thought to myself, how the hell is a flag waving on the moon? Nobody's, you're a conspiracy theorist, Hawkeye. Damn right. My eyes just saw the freaking flag do this number. Oh, well, Buzz Aldrin or somebody must have been waving. Wait, if there's no air on the moon, then how can anybody wave anything that would make the flag wave? That's because we have these things ingrained in our brains that we must think it. Well, it's gravity. Well, there's no atmosphere. How'd the thing wave? Well, he bumped it, and then it went all by himself when they stood back to take a picture. Give me a break. So what does this mean? I believe there is a planet X. I don't believe in the conjecture that it's a stellar core. It's got a gravitational pull 10 times the size of Jupiter. I don't believe it. I'm sorry. Because the information isn't there. They're using all of these hypotheticals to explain what's going on. They really don't have proof, is my point. There is proof of spaceships. There is proof that there are huge objects moving around. Those 6 moons that left Jupiter, they went on a mission. That makes more sense to me than, well, we just don't know. But they must have bumped together. Wait a minute, hang on. They would have bumped together when they came into the orbit. I mean, their answers just make me more confused. And I want to try to believe them, Oh, more moons around Jupiter. Hang on a minute. You lost 6 of them from Jupiter? Are you serious? And you're trying to tell me it's the biggest? You get where I'm coming with that. So I'm not picking on anyone. I'm picking on the science. I'm picking on the hypothetical stuff that people are using to explain these phenomena. Now, I've said it before. Now I'll mention it again. The Earth is like a baked potato. These cosmic energies are heating the Earth up from the inside out. The Schumann resonance yesterday and the day before was off the charts. And now all of a sudden, people are starting to catch up with the bandwagon. I've been talking about the Schumann resonance for 2 years now, that some of these things that are happening to us are coming up from the ground. It's coming from the earth. Yes, we're getting bombarded and it's passing through us, heating up the core and all the magma and everything. The earth is expanding. Why? Or the oceans are warming from the bottom up. Where's all this coming from? Baked potato, microwave, the UVC this last summer. People were getting burned under their skin in the epidermal layer. It's not even burning the top of your skin. It's going through it and burning the layer between your skin and your muscle. That's the UVC. Those are the things that are changing our brain patterns. Those are the things that are changing our DNA. And they don't want us to frickin' know about it. It makes sense. Oh, we're all getting frickin' microwave. That's why there are more volcanoes. Why? It's heated up the magma. When you have pressure buildup, things expand. They don't contract. Okay? You got to put something in ice water for it to contract. So what's going on? The earth is expanding. There are volcanoes popping off. Too much pressure in the earth. But they want you to believe that it's Planet X and a theory that there is a stellar core with a huge amount of gravitational pull. That's doing it. That's the sole cause for Earth's problems and the sole cause for the Earth being wobbly. I keep mentioning over the last 2 years, I've talked about the Gulf Stream isn't the Gulf Stream anymore. I've talked about the oceans changing. There is no currents anymore. We all know the jet streams are messed up beyond belief. What would explain all that? Earth wobble. What would explain it? Cosmic energy coming in, taking off the top layer of our atmosphere. What else? Well, it also would account for the heating of the oceans from the bottom up. It would, why are there, well, now I must admit to this next statement. They're messing with our weather, but the cosmic waves aren't helping. Okay. Now in their stupidity, or whatever, they're trying to use these as an excuse. And there may be something to it, but I'm feeling that it ain't. They just want to get rid of us and not be able to watch what's going on in the sky. Now, I do believe people have been taking pictures of things, huge planet-like objects, but I do not believe that it's anything related to Planet X or Nibiru. Why? Because if you could take a picture of that sumbitch as close as people say it is, we would be getting electrical sparks from that planet, stellar core or whatever, to the Earth. We would be getting plasma waves back and forth that would be frying the Earth. It would make more Grand Canyons. So I'm sorry if I don't believe that Planet X is the cause of this. But I do believe there is a Planet X. Okay? Just saying. There are other positive proofs that explain what's happening to this Earth without going out there in a conjecture world. We have the science. We also have the knowledge. We have the instruments. But what's wrong with this picture is these people are trying to make the science fit the situation. It must be a stellar core. It must be a this. It must be a that. And they're not looking at these. They're glossing over the information that's right in front of them. What about the cosmic rays? What's it doing to the Earth? Oh, nothing. But oh my God, Planet X. They go. Wait. What about these cosmic rays? They're a nuisance. You can't wear sunblock. But Planet X. And hang on, wait a minute. You just went right past the answer. You just spoke the answer and right off you went with it. So I'm like, okay, guys, catch up, please. Now, I've said this in my earlier video, and I'm not trying to pat myself on the back for this, but because I've gotten this information and it has been discussed with, granted, few people, because most people don't want to have this sincere discussion. But Planet X is the cause of it all. Hang on. I agree there's a Planet X. Let's start there. But the rest of this is just hogwash. It's, well, how far away? We don't know. But we think it's out there. It's in Ophiuchus and it's moving this direction. Are you sure? Well, that's what Harrington said. Listen, it should have been here by now. It should have went past. We should have seen all this stuff, and it should be on its way. Well, he was off on his figures, and we kind of think it's there, and they keep coming up with these excuses. It should have been here. That's part of my problem with this. It should have been here. Why don't we really see it? Why can't I go out and take a picture of it? It's because where these people are taking pictures, there is an object in space. They are taking a picture of it, but it's not Nibiru. It's not Planet X. It's not anything else. It's the galactics. This is what's going to be so hard for people to swallow. They're not going sorry. If anything, the size of what some of these pictures are that close to the Earth, we'd be getting an electrical discharge. Period. Too much science to say we wouldn't. So, and then for it to be in somebody's skies today and not be tomorrow, but 3 days later it shows up again, hang on. Planets don't act like that. Not in the normal world. So now you're trying to get me to believe that there is an abnormal world that's explaining why you took a picture of Planet X yesterday, but you didn't see it for 3 days, and then you took another picture, and that's your proof that it exists. No, it proves you took a picture of a planet-sized spaceship, is what you're telling me. Because Nibiru, Planet X, whatever it would be, wouldn't be whizzing around like that. If it would have been out of our solar system by now. Pay attention. Okay? I still believe Planet X exists, but not in the narrative that's being given. And it's gotten brought back up. Here, these last couple of months, it's like Nibiru kind of went, now all of a sudden, oh, it's Nibiru again. It's oh, God. Please, ladies and gentlemen, let's look at the real science and not conjecture, please. Let's have a serious discussion about this. Well, I took a picture and it was 4 years old. Well, yeah. Well, if that was Nibiru and that was the picture 4 years ago, the whole thing should be gone by now. And you're telling me that now you're picking up the picture of that same planet that went across 4 years ago, but it just stopped in time and but I'm taking a picture of it again. Can you hear the absurdity in this? But people they're still spouting it because they're trying to explain what's happening. Now I get why they're doing it, because their brain has been muddled by all this confusion. And I'm trying to tell folk, let's look at the real data, the data that's in. When solar wind speeds are up, huge holes in the sun, galactic energy's up. It's all this is proven. All of this, we can go out there and look at these instruments ourselves, the magnetosphere and all these kinds of things. We can observe them, you and me. That's where I've come to my own conclusion. It's because it's cosmic waves or energy, stupid. I said that to myself. It's the cosmic energy, stupid. It's not a planet. It's not some stellar core. It's the cosmic energies. That's what's wreaking heaven upon our planet. And because the magma's heated up, because all of the normal things that were on the earth, this thing about climate change and it's all our fault, that's bullshit. One volcano makes more stuff and I don't breathe out sulfur dioxide, I breathe out carbon dioxide, which is what plants and trees use to make light. And oh my goodness gracious me. So people have part of the science and then somehow in their brain, they skew it to fit their narrative. And I'm trying to show you, here's the narrative, but here's some proof that you can really sink your scientific fingers into. You can make your own observations. So these people who are taking pictures of Nibiru with these, but it's right there. If it was, there would be cosmic discharges. There would be blue sparks every flipping where. and there'd be holes in the ground from these plasmic discharges between the two objects. Now, if you take a picture of an object that I agree, there's some of the, I've seen them in the sky myself, so I'm with you on this, but it's not a planet. It may be a planet-sized spaceship, which is okay. I think Death Star without the death, but to the point though, it's like, why not? I mean, you look at Ceres, I think it is one of the little tiny little, not exoplanets, but, dwarf planets inside of, they sent a probe to it. It looks like somebody welded a seam right around the middle of the darn thing. They've heard noises coming off of it. One of the recent pictures had lights on it on the dark side, where there shouldn't have been any reflection or lights, 4 of them. And it's like, wait a minute, how come there are lights on this thing? Well, I don't know. It's just a little piece of, okay. So if this were true, then how come these little dwarf planets aren't being sucked off towards Jupiter or to the stellar core, to Nibiru? Why aren't these smaller rocks being siphoned off towards it? So there is more of a debris tail. If it's that freaking strong, I mean, if you take a magnet and sprinkle little chips on a table and you go near it, all these little things go like this. So if you get magnetism anywhere near something, it's going to make it fuzz and do this. Well, so then how come we got all these little tiny rocks running around? How come we got 3 of them going by in the next few hours? How come none of them are being sucked into our atmosphere? And sure enough, if this theory of gravity were true, make you question it. Now, here's the problem everybody's having. I have seen the spaceships and the things and everything that I've talked about. And so therefore, I believe something else. I believe that these things that are being photographed are huge spherical type spaceships that literally look like planets. But it's not Nibiru. I believe in the Planet X thing and even in the Nibiru thing, because there is history, study, old astronomy, that things happen. Now, there's also a crap load of proof that aliens have been here on this planet before. So what if these people who are claiming that it was Nibiru that caused our cataclysms, what if it had nothing to do with Nibiru? What if Nibiru came through about the same time there were other cosmic energies and that the planet expanded? Now, there's been too much about, panspermia and so forth, that we were a single ball and much smaller than we are now. If you go with the expanded Earth, it explains all this other stuff. We're getting cosmic energies heating up the magma. The magma is expanding like things do, and the crust is breaking, opening, volcanoes are going off. All of this is, there you go. Do we have to have a Planet X to explain it? Seriously? Does it have to be a stellar core that is the only reason that these things are happening? No. There's too much evidence of other stuff. So, again, I will repeat, I believe the Planet X exists. I believe there's probably a Nibiru. But again, I reiterate, it's not what's happening to the Earth. There's too much evidence otherwise. I believe people are taking pictures of big, giant, planet-looking things. But if they could, it should be in the same spot for a couple days. I mean, I remember when Halley's Comet came through, it was visible in the basic same location and dropped a little bit in the sky, and then it raised back up, but you could see it in the same place for several days in a row. Now, if this were Nibiru, Planet X, or whatever, you would be able to see it consistently, relatively, in the same location in the sky. Not take a picture of this orb and then the next morning it's gone. It doesn't happen that way. It just doesn't. So, but I saw it. Yes, you did. You saw something. And because Planet X and Nibiru is out there, the first thing people think of, oh shit, that's the planet. If it was the planet, we would be dead because you wouldn't be taking a picture of it like that. Sorry, because the plasma discharge between the planets there'd be electricity going off everywhere. In fact, it could actually ignite the atmosphere under certain conditions. That's the truth. Because if it went out into the ocean and a lot of electrical discharge hit the ocean and siphoned off a lot of hydrogen, it's H2O. All right, there's two of hydrogen. Well, with electricity, you can strip off one of those hydrogen atoms and you end up with Brown's gas. But what is that? Well, it's explosive. You can burn it. That's what people should be using it. We should be using it on our cars. That's the hydrogen thing. So it's possible that an electrical discharge, even into the Great Lakes or something, could create enough hydrogen by breaking the bonds of the H2O and make it HO only, and that extra hydrogen would then be available to ignite. That's possible. Now, it's still a far stretch and a crap load of electricity, but you can do your own science experiment with that. I mean, you can take a couple of electrodes in a 9-volt battery and put it in water and create Brown's gas. So that's like, you can do it at the house, So I don't have to go into some kind of hypothetical star thing. Stellar core. And other people are using it. I know y'all are thinking, well, I ain't picking on nobody. I'm picking on the science. These people are trying to use the science that they understand. And guess what? They don't really understand it because the science isn't valid in this particular instance. They've got to stop thinking with a box. Throw the fucking box away and just think about this, please. I'm sorry, I used the F word. I try not to do that. I really do. And I'm not upset about this, but I am damn sure passionate because let's tell the truth. Let's look at what's really going on here, not some hypothetical blah, 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 blah. Okay. And let me even go back to this. Well, I just don't believe the sun has a core, not in this sense, a plasma core. Very, 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 very possible. Does it have a solid? No. The gravitational field is created from the spinning and the overall size of this thing. It's not the density of it. They got to think out of this freaking box they keep putting in there. But look at the solar pictures, and when you see them giant holes and their sparkles, it's the other side of the inside of the sun. It's not on the sun because it's a hole. If it wasn't a hole, then so with that hole, you can see to the other side of the inside of the sun. It's obvious. You can observe it. I like looking at it. It's freaking cool, but to the point, it's like, oh no, there's a solid. You're not looking at the same pictures I am. But the thing is that they can't believe that the sun could be hollow, that there is something else happening. Well, we got to go with the solid core theory. Why? Well, because somebody told us to, and everybody's been taught that. And okay, what about Admiral Byrd? Did he fly in the middle of the earth? Well, that's poppycock. Then how come he hasn't been wiped off the internet and wiped out of the history books as being a kook? Why? Everybody else has been. I mean, Bob Lazar, he's a kook. I mean, all these other people. Well, I worked at Area. No, you didn't. He's a kook. He's a kook. That person's a kook. That one's a kook. Admiral Byrd, not a kook. So the things that they're asking you to believe have much many questions than there are answers. But when you look at the scientific data that's available, and now I know, well, there is kind of scientific data about the UFO thing, but the sun doesn't have a core. It's a sphere. It's hollow. It's taking galactic energy, combining it, and then making this ball of flame on the outside. Just like the old style Coleman lanterns that you put gas, the pump up gas kind, just like those mantles. That's it. Why do you have to go into some other kind of thing? Go look at the pictures. See, now here's the thing. A couple of years ago, I've heard about this hollow sun thing and it's a portal. I'm going, yeah, show. Okay. Well, then as the sun started cooling down and the coronal hole sizes increased, I started studying those vids and so forth of the satellites of the sun. And I came to my own conclusion by observing that it's the inside of the sun that you're looking at through these giant holes. Go look for yourself. But keep an open mind. If you say, well, that I can't be seeing that, it must be some other effect, think hollow. Okay, I'm going to look at the sun differently today. There isn't a stellar core in it. If there isn't some kind of thingy, I'm just going to look at the pictures. And I'm going to look really close and I'm going to zoom in and keep an eye on what's going on. And you'll be able to go, oh, shit, it is hollow. Holy crap. Now, do you believe the spaceships are coming in and out? Well, look at some of those videos. There are huge balls being ejected out of the sun. I lost count at about 50 videos ago, of my own, watching my own. I mean, watching the sun's videos on my own. I mean, my computer thingy, I wish I could share some of this stuff, but I can't. So it's like, okay, but the information's out there and you've seen some of these things. And they want to say, well, that's not really what makes us a flipping round? Well, it's so hot on the sun that nothing could withstand it. How do you know? Well, the temperature's coming off of it. Yeah, it's 93 million miles away. Do you think, hang on, but you're using all this hypothetical stuff. You mean you can't, well, number one, you think the sun's solid. Number two, you think that none of these other things are possible. And wait a minute. So if an alien technology came to this planet and taught mankind how to build the flipping pyramids and move them giant rocks with one of them little wonder wands that are in the hieroglyphs. Now, as a machinist, I know how flipping hard it is to get something flat, straight, and a square corner. And I'm here to tell you, it's really flipping difficult. And there's too many precision pieces of block for it to be done by a bunch of copper chiseling slaves. They used laser type technology. Had to. It's too accurate. I've worked in metrology for a plant that made engine blades for jet airplanes. Rolls-Royce, these other ones, the JT-9, JT-8. They're in a lot of our military aircraft. I built these things. I made them. I made the gauges to gauge them with. And I'm here to tell you that some of these things in the Sphinx and all that, they are so accurate. I'm sitting at the house going, I don't know how they did it. I mean, as a machinist, I know how to rock and this and that, but you're going to take a piece of a big chunk of granite or whatever, and it's going to be straight within a thousandth of an inch over how long? I want to know how in the hell they what kind of metrology type, measuring devices they use to get it that straight. Straight, perfect squares? Are you kidding me? Go out in the real world and try to duplicate what these people did 2,000-3,000 years ago. So you got to take this into consideration. Somebody else did something else and somebody else was here, by golly. And so some of this other stuff, well, wait a minute, it had to have been a bunch of slaves with chisels. Hang on. Well, but that's the only possible thing I can think of because they're thinking in a box. Okay. If you realize, though, that holy cow, they could move these huge blocks with a little bit of light or possibly sound or a combination of vibrational thing, then you can understand that, oh my God, you could probably put a force field around an extraterrestrial spaceship that could go in and land on the sun. Wouldn't hurt it. Because they have the technology and the science and the physics in order to accomplish it. They don't need special equipment. They simply put a force field around it. They're not affected by the heat. Is that really so far-fetched? No, it really isn't. I mean, Tesla was doing it. How do you think the Philadelphia experiment did what it did? They were trying to make it invisible to radar, and they made the thing blink out of existence and go into another reality and then come back. Hang on, wait, what? Oh yeah, the Philadelphia experiment back in the 40s, remember? Isn't that like a force field? Oh well. So it's not far-fetched. They've just convinced us that it is too far-fetched for us to believe those kinds of things. Mamby-pamby, you're a conspiracy theorist. You're a UFO, put your tinfoil hat on. Well, they don't make tinfoil anymore. It's aluminum, but I digress. So I think I've got my point across. There are a few other little tidbits along the way, but when you look at the science, a lot of this stuff don't make sense. Why are asteroids flying around the Earth and none of them getting sucked in? Why haven't any of them hit the moon if the moon has got some kind of gravitational? How did 6 moons leave the orbit of Jupiter? That's the big surprise to me. What? And it gained one. I can see it gaining one. But it's wrong trajectory, wrong everything else. And they're like, we don't know where this thing, more conjecture and more hypothesis. If you think out of the box, maybe the galactics really are here. They said well over 3 or 4 years ago, they were going to start showing themselves, and they would appear as giant orbs in the clouds. I've seen them in the clouds, and many of you may have as well. You've seen pictures of them. I do believe those are real, but it's not a planet. Sorry. Because a planet wouldn't sit there. It'd be moving. We've seen the pictures. The moon's going around the Earth, the solar thingy. Does the moon stay in one spot? No, it's moving. So therefore, everything else should be moving. So if you take a still picture of Nibiru and it's there 20 minutes later, it ain't Nibiru. You see? And you can't take the same picture twice over Florida over a period of 2 or 3 days. It would have been gone. So please stop trying to make me believe that it's Nibiru. Think that's a frickin' spaceship, because you're probably more accurate. In fact, you're probably right. But if you're trying to get the rest of us to believe that it's the mess from Nibiru, it can't be, period, because of all the other science. If it was that close, we'd have electrical discharges. Haven't seen any. What about the Earth and volcanic activity? Well, all these cosmic rays coming in, I'm heating up. People are getting burned under their skin. Wouldn't that make sense that the skin of the Earth has heated up things? What about the oil in the Earth? Maybe it's expanding. What about the water deep in the Earth? Maybe everything's expanding because of these cosmic rays. And there's been too much proof by sure enough scientists with data proving these particles are hitting us. They set up machines deep in the Earth so that they won't get any other particles. And they're going through mountains and being picked up by these sensitive devices. Several years ago, they've done this. I don't know, we're running into 5, 6, 7 years ago. So they were warning us then. We're getting these, they're literally coming right through mountains and hitting our instruments. They shouldn't be doing that. Well, it's picked up. Instead of once in a while, it's going through mountains left and right now. They're picking up stuff. Their little machines are going wacko. Okay. So anyway, this is a serious discussion. And this should be a serious discussion. And people should look at the rest of the evidence rather than trying to blame it on one particular thing. There's too much else going on, please. And at the same time you're trying to explain that it's the gravitational pull, then how come it hasn't sucked all these other things out of the solar system that are much smaller than the Earth? Oh, well, there's a size thing. Oh, see, they're going to make up another excuse. Well, the Earth has a mass and these things. If it's got a magnet to it and you're telling me that the gravity is going to pull things in like a magnet, then why ain't doing it to the rest of the stuff in the solar system? If it was that powerful, it should have sucked Pluto out of its orbit, and Pluto should be orbiting that stellar core now. You follow me? I love you all. I do. And I know this is a shitty, it's going to seem like I'm picking on people, but I'm not. They're trying to use the information and the science they have. And I've been saying this for a while. There's science out there that they don't quite understand yet that hasn't been revealed to the common man. You really have to think out there to at least accept some of this stuff. But you're trying to get me to accept something that you really have no valid proof of. Instruments on Earth picking up stellar rays. I go outside for 10 minutes. I got whelps in my arm. That's proof. We're looking through a telescope of the thing that somebody says, well, that's a stellar core out there. And it's only 22 million miles away. Or no, I'm sorry, 22 million light years away. Yeah, that's gazillion light. But you're going to tell me that that's a stellar core and that that's how it acts and that everything in the solar... Please stop trying to shove it down my throat. Tell me it's a hypothesis. Don't lie to me and say, well, it's the truth. It's the truth in your head. It's not the truth, because then why are these other things happening? Why aren't these other things happening? You follow me with this? Okay. I'm trying to be kind. And I don't think it's the people trying to get, well, there are scientists trying to get us to swallow it. But there are people who are trying to understand this mystery, and it's confusing. And they're trying to use these stellar objects and the thing, and it's a that, and they're trying to use what they think they know, because that's what they've been taught. And I'm not disrespecting anyone. If you think I am, please back up, because I'm not. They're trying to explain these phenomena with the information that they have been taught. And it can't be explained simply by what they've been taught, because the information cannot be correct because of these other things. Why aren't all these asteroids being sucked out of our solar system? How come we've got thousands of near-Earth objects going around the Earth? Why aren't they being sucked off to the sun if the sun's that powerful? Why aren't these other things happening? Well, but it's stellar thingies and Nibiru. Wait a minute, hang on. What about Mercury? Look how close it is to the sun. How come it didn't get sucked in? Oh, well, this thing's more powerful. And you're not observing the known universe with your own two eyes. You're going through this hypothetical somebody else said. When you observe things with your own self, with an open mind, you got to keep an open mind. There is another point of view. All right. Just saying. Now, again, I'm not picking on anybody. I use the word stellar core. Other people have used it. So don't say I'm picking on a person. I'm not. I'm picking on the science that these people are trying to use, because it's all they have. Because they're searching for the answer. And I applaud them for that. But the serious discussion with this, yes, please share it with other friends and neighbors. Share it with your Nibiru and Planet X folks. Let them see this discussion. Let them try to go ahead. Well, I took a picture of it 4 years ago. Well, yeah, there's a thing on the thing. Yeah, that was 3 weeks ago. It should be gone out of here. How fast did that Mau come into the solar system and leave? Came in, flew by, and it's gone. That's what should be happen. That's what it should have happened with Planet X. Planet X should have come in. We should all waved at it, and it should be out of here by now. Much like all these other objects. I mean, I remember seeing Halley's Comet to me, but it's like, wait a minute. It came in. We all watched it. It went around. We saw the tail. Bam, it was gone. And couple weeks from the visual, sure enough, there it is in the sky. Now we could observe it with the telescope or binoculars, but that's not the point. So if this thing is real, well, how come I can't take my binoculars out? Like I have observed at least 10 different comets in my lifetime, one of them being Halley's Comet. What? Well, then all these things, see, it doesn't fit the paradigm. I know I'm repeating myself and going around in circles, but I'm not. Yes, I am, partially. See, there are just too many other things out there. It's like, This isn't making sense to me. But when I open up my thought pattern, Akashic record to the science, whatever, I'm opening my brain up to the quantum computer, and that's connecting all of space. And I'm asking the question, this shit don't make sense. Can you help me out here? And then I get these downloads and I go looking for the information as I've described, and this is what I've come up with. To me, it makes sense. Cosmic rays, even if the earth wasn't hollow, we still getting the cosmic rays that are still heating up the earth. That is still true. But again, I refer you back to Admiral Byrd. If he was a quack and a kook, how come they haven't discredited him? They haven't. Because maybe the earth really is hollow. Like we've been told for centuries, there are people that come up out of the earth. There are people. Now, I've been inside the earth in caves many times, and there's just something about it that this ain't the end of this cave. And the earth is full of these things and caverns and wondrous things under the surface. Oh my God. But to the point, though, it's like, unless you have visited some of these places yourself, unless you've been into some of these intimate, down deep in the earth kind of things, I kind of wonder, it's like, does this thing really go to further down? And what happens when it does? I mean, there's conjecture there. But to the point, I would more believe that the earth is hollow because I've been in the earth than to believe there's a solid core and that Admiral Byrd was a fool. If he was a fool, why didn't they prove him wrong? Again, I go back to that, but to the point. So I'm trying to wrap this thing up in a way that is like there's too much other evidence to explain a different phenomena. All right. Now, let me please read your comments and stuff. And I understand I'm not picking on anybody. I'm picking on the science. Okay. I am. And, I haven't mentioned anybody's name, not going to, because I don't think it's fair. But many of you already know, and I'm not using these people as my example. That's not it. But I'm not picking on these people either. I want you to understand it. I'm not. It's the science that's wrong. Okay. Marie Quartz Quantum, blessing all you folks. Look up here. And flat earthers want everyone to believe that it's flat. You can't have flat earth with astrology and stars and planets. Quartz, exactly. I'm sorry, there's just so much of this stuff that it just ain't there, Let me go back up. 1/10, cool, I'm going to the moon. Right, yeah, we can all be, but, when I was a kid, I watched them sloughing across the moon going, wait a minute, you all said that you were going to be able to jump and play. None of that really happened, So, what do we got up here? 111. I always laugh when you read my comments. This is like 15 minutes later and translate Twitch. Here I go again. It's been 30 minutes later, Marie. Yeah, the president's supposed to be on his way to Paris for that Paris talks. And him and Putin have got a lot to talk about it, I guarantee you. I'm going way back up. You've been in caves and lava tubes, so I know the earth has hollow. Can't explain those sinkholes, though. Well, the sinkholes is the pressure that's holding up have fallen through. That's what's causing that. Also, if you understand that these cosmic rays are expanding the earth and things are kind of, moving out a little bit, and if something was a little shaky underneath the earth. Now, I've been in caves in Florida, and there's limestone above you. And I've sometimes wondered, what if something broke off? And there is evidence from the caves that I've been in that there are rocks the size of a house that fell out of the ceiling. And I was standing on top of it, and it's still 30 foot to the ceiling, huge caves. Whoa, my goodness. It would freak a lot of people out. But so the earth is definitely like a catacomb. And the sinkholes are because they've been taken out too much water out of the aquifers, and so the aquifers help hold up everything. When the last time I was in Florida, which has been a few years back now, but I was about 2 miles from the interstate, could barely see it across the flat earth. palmetto bushes. But I could feel the trucks driving up and down the interstate that was 2 miles from the house. The vibration was set up in the floor. And I thought to myself, that constant vibration that's going on just by trucks going up and down the interstate, there's this constant shaking going on from on top of the earth being put down into the earth. What's that doing to the limestone? I mean, in machining, they're called vibrators, wheel vibrators. There's different product names, but basically, you put a metal object in there that's got some sharp edges on it. You put some smooth rocks in it, and you shake it. It just shakes. It sits in this machine, and it goes around, and all the metal parts dance around these rocks, and it takes all the burrs off of it, deburrs them, and makes a really nice sheen to the metal, depending on what kind it is. But so, but it if rocks can tear off pieces of stainless steel and Inconel and, titanium and all these other different kinds of things, and that's just sitting in the machine. Imagine what a bunch of cars going up and down over the road, especially like on limestone, which is supposed to be very solid, but anything that has a constant vibration to it. I mean, what did they do with jackhammers? Brrr, it's the constant vibration. It's the constant, brrr, Okay, so that's what's happening on the earth, and with cars, trucks, stuff going on. I mean, I live not an eighth of a mile from my road, from where I'm sitting right now. I can feel the trucks go by up on the hill. I can feel tractors and things go by. I mean, literally, sometimes it'll shake the windows in the house. It's up the hill, but it's being transferred down through the earth. So there's some science for you. Marie says, I can imagine the volcano exploding like 100 nukes back in the past, and the debris is still floating in space and eventually find its way back to Earth. Exactly. That makes more sense to me. But, the dust and things they're collecting on their own, that just don't fly. And I can't believe they're trying to make us believe it. But anyway. And your spring has already started cool out, huh? All right. Maybe they are warships, Miss Sassy Susie says. And I agree with you. There's a lot of things, and I'm going to have to cut this short because I got to do a bathroom break quickly, badly. And so I'm going to say adios for now. I love you all. Just understand there's more to this than meets the eye. And please don't be sucked into it. But be kind to those people who are trying to explain it, because they know not what they do, because they're trying to use the science at hand. So I'm going to close that with that. I love you all. I do. And I'm telling you, please, I've never asked you to share another video. Share this one. Piss somebody off and let them hear Mr. Dave talk about this with some honor. Now, if I could share the screen, I would show you some of these things, but I can't. But it's out there. So anyway, I love you all. Gotta pee. I got a butt cramp, and I love you.